everyone. Welcome to our second unit of the science class. The second unit is going to largely be about the three states of matter, solids, liquids, and gases. But before we can dive into those different states of matter, it's important to know what makes up matter, and that is atoms, and atoms can combine to form molecules. So we are going to be starting by learning about atoms. Starting with some of the basics, atoms are the building blocks of everything that is known in the universe. So anything that we have known for sure exists has been made out of some type of atom. An element is a substance that's made up of only one type of atom. An example is something you might be writing with currently. The graphite in a pencil is only made up of carbon atoms. And currently, we know of 118 different types of atoms. It's very possible and probable even that more types of atoms exist, but so far we've only been able to verify 118. Even though atoms are the basic building blocks, atoms themselves are made up of different things as well. So atoms are made up of three main particles. We have protons, and protons are in the nucleus and have a positive 1 charge. So the nucleus is in the center of the atom, and the protons would be shown here in red, which is why I've colored the text red. Neutrons are the second main particle, neutrons. Neutrons are also found in the nucleus, but they do not have a charge. So protons have a positive 1 charge, neutrons do not have a charge, and neutrons are really important for keeping the nucleus stable. And finally, let's add another color here. I'll get a bit of a darker blue. This will match our electrons. So finally, we have electrons. Electrons orbit the nucleus. So they are not inside the nucleus, they orbit the nucleus. And they have a negative 1 charge. So here is an electron. And if you look at this atom here, there is 1, 2, 3 electrons and 1, 2, 3 protons, which means overall there would be no charge to this element. We keep track of the different types of elements on something called the periodic table of elements. And I'm going to zoom in on that here for just a second. So the periodic table of elements organizes atoms in two ways. If you just read it like the lines of a book and you go from left to right and then top to bottom, the elements are just increasing in the number of protons. And every new element has 1 more proton. And they also have 1 or several more neutrons as well, but the main idea here is that they have 1 more proton. So hydrogen has 1 proton, helium has 2, lithium has 3, beryllium has 4, so on and so forth. But they're also organized in another way as well. And any element that is in the same column, columns run up and down, they have very similar properties to one another. So lithium and sodium and potassium all behave very similarly. Same with beryllium and magnesium and calcium. And all of the columns are the same. So any elements found in the same column have very similar properties. There's also extra detail on each of those squares. So let's take a look at one square that's been pulled out. So all that I've done here is taken this carbon square and pulled it out to the side. So on these we have a few different bits of information. We have the name of the element, the symbol of the element, so that's the abbreviated symbol. It's an OL, not a D. We have the atomic number. Use the number symbol here for space. We have the atomic number, which is the number of protons. So the atomic number is the number of protons, and it's actually protons and electrons as well. So carbon has 6 protons and 6 electrons. And then we have the atomic mass. The atomic mass is here. And the atomic mass is the number of protons and neutrons. Protons and neutrons each have a mass of 1. So when we're talking about atomic mass units, they each have a mass of 1. And we know carbon has 6 protons and an atomic mass of 12. So if you take this 12 and subtract from it the number of protons, you will find the number of neutrons. So here's the equation for that. Atomic mass minus the atomic number, continue down here, equals the number of neutrons. And that's a good equation to know. If you have extra space, you might want to write down that equation. Atomic mass minus atomic number equals the number of neutrons. Now, I mentioned this just a little bit earlier, but molecules are essentially atoms joining together or bonding. So atoms can bond or combine together to form molecules. And when molecules form, sometimes their properties can change. They're not always the same properties as the atoms that made them up. For example, water is a molecule, so it's made up of different types of atoms. And water is a molecule of hydrogen. It has 2 hydrogens found here, and oxygen. Oxygen would be this larger bubble here. Hydrogen and oxygen are both gas. They're both gases at room temperature, but when they bond to form a molecule of water, it's now a liquid at room temperature. Another way that changes is that hydrogen and oxygen are both completely colorless. You cannot see them, but you can see water, liquid water. That is it for our notes on atoms and molecules. Happy to have you guys on Unit 2. Hope you enjoy it.